But yeah, I can. But okay, so yeah, sure. Yep. Do you still need this one?
I think so. Yeah, let me.
Wait one
Let's
second.
find out. Oh, here it is. Okay. Here. PulseChain tour. If you can hear this, you're early. But welcome to the PulseChain tour.
First of all, let me say thank you for joining us today. My name is Kaylin. Some of you may know me as all kinds of things. Black Hexton on Twitter. Let's talk about Hex on Telegram. Recently, crypto culture, just all kinds of things. I just try to be, all inclusive of everything. I just want to give you guys a little bit of background. For those of you guys who, thank you, sticker guy, who don't know, KSB, Cryptos Barbu, we kind of started these tours back in 2020? 2021, I'm sorry, with the Hex Tour. You guys may have seen that Avid and Patrick wrapped a Audi and two Audis actually, the SUV and then the R8. And then we traveled the United States teaching tours on Hex. Since then, there are also some guys in the background that do a lot of work that a lot of people don't know. That's Mars and Dan. Dan, will probably see him show up at some point or another. But we have been motivated over the past few years to continue the idea of having events in person. So that you can shake hands, you can meet who these developers are, that you can ask your questions directly and be more involved in the PulseChain ecosystem. So after KSB decided to return back to Europe, Captain RG3 decided that he wanted to keep this energy going. And so last year we continued to tour the United States.
Testing.
Teaching about PulseChain. So this year we decided to combine our efforts with both KSB and Captain RG3 so that we could tour Europe. And we have partnered with a lot of the different content creators in the space so that we could provide you guys with a great conference experience and the opportunity to talk directly with the builders that you guys have a lot of respect for in the space. This is our website, so at any time feel free to go back there and check how the day will go, the schedule with all the different speakers and their time slots. And then at 1 o'clock, I can scroll down, I believe 12:50. At 12:50, we will break for an hour and 10 minutes. The VIPs will go.
Well, hello there.
On the 17th floor. I should have told everybody that. And then we will come back here at 2 o'clock and finish out the rest of the day. Keep up with those raffle tickets because we will be doing a significant number of raffles today. All of the items that are featured on this table, as well as some crypto giveaways, and we will disclose those amounts a little later in the day. That is pretty much it for me. I would like to introduce our first speaker. He goes by Markable Thoughts, and we are very appreciative to have him here with us today.
Thank you. So where's the? Oh, here. Hello. It's kind of interesting to be here in front of real people instead of a camera. Well, I got a lot of cameras here, but it's very nice to be here. A lot of people actually know me by the name Proof of Beard. I make a lot of the live stream intros for the streamers, and yeah, I've been here in this community for about, I don't know, at the beginning. I guess it's almost it's been 4 or 5 years now. It's been quite a journey, and what I find interesting and what is the what I find very important as well is that after this entire journey that we've gone through, we still get people get on chain, they understand a little bit more of what a decentralized exchange is, and slowly we're getting there, I think. But yeah, it just needs to constantly be repeated that this is what crypto is, and not all the other stuff. And that's also where I see the value in PulseChain, is that we have a community that is way more adapt to these circumstances because we're not on these exchanges. And the people that get into our community, they need to learn these steps. And on all the other stuff that we're seeing, it's just, oh, I just get on Binance and I buy this, and now I have it. But not really. That's what I think this community makes this community really strong, is that we get things from the base. We understand how things work. And that's where innovation comes from. And that's where, very strong future comes from. What I find interesting is that we're in this monetary system where everyone is trusting centralized entities. Everyone's trusting, oh, the big guys know what to do, so I'm just here in this system and I just go along. And what we've been seeing, I think everyone has seen this chart by now, is the M2 money supply of the US dollar. It's funny, we've been streaming, well, right here. And we've been saying on stream, a lot of people have been saying on stream, hey, that's probably not a good sign that it's going up like that. There's probably going to be some problems, including inflation. And yeah, I think a lot of people were going to get hurt. And I was saying that in 2019 also to my close circle of friends. It's like, hey, there's something going wrong, or there's a wave coming that not a lot of people are prepared for. And well, sure, everyone has experienced it. The inflation has been really high. A lot of people have been struggling to get by, and I think that's only gonna get worse. And that's for trusting the financial institutions as they are, and incentives that are not aligned to what the people are needing. And that's why we need to be here, and we need to stay strong. We need to move forward and innovate, because if we're not doing it, then this is just going to keep on happening, and then there's going to be a solution that's not really a solution for us, but for them, basically. And them is then the financial institutions that have all the money. What I found interesting, and what Richard tweeted, I don't know, a month ago or something, is the federal debt versus GDP. And this basically just tells you how messed up the system is. Because if you have more debt than you can produce, then you're basically going bankrupt, right? Sure, we can keep on going like this for a long time, I think, but it's kind of ludicrous that we have the World War. We're at the all-time high since the World War. It's pretty bad, I would say. And I've looked at the numbers. I found this one the most interesting, but Japan, for example, is above 300%. And then, since we're in the Netherlands, I also looked up the Netherlands. It's only like 50%. So it's a lot better. But as we've seen in 2008 as well, is that everything gets triggered when the US dollar or something goes wrong in the United States. And what we've recently seen is that the petrodollar, it was Saudi Arabia, right? Yeah, is not continuing with the petrodollar, and so oil can be denominated in different currencies, and so the US dollar is losing strength. And a lot of things can happen. It's not like this is doomsday, but I would say there's a lot of indicators that something is inherently wrong. And when you look at this, that really sets the tone of how wrong things are. And regardless of what's going to happen, you don't want to be in the dollar when things like this are happening. When you're in a cryptocurrency and you see all things are going wrong, and you see the protocol is not really working and things are crumbling, devs are leaving, you're not really inclined to stay there for a long time, right? You're looking at, should I go out or not? It's kind of the same with the dollar, or any other fiat currency for that matter. That's why I think cryptocurrency is very, it's important, and it's very, I would say it's crucial to understand these things and to understand, hey, where can I park my fiat money? It's maybe not the only thing, but it's, for me at least, it's one of the most interesting things, because we can keep up with inflation and we can actually overperform the crumbling system, basically. There's a funny story that, I don't know, I was 10, I think. I was sitting at the table, the dining table with my parents, and at some point I just had the question, hey Dad, if we want more money, can't we just print it? Like, it's just paper, right? Like, why can't we make it? And my parents laughed, just because it's kind of silly. Like, yeah, you're gonna print more, but then the printed money becomes worth less. So eventually you're at kind of the same level, because everything is gonna even out, basically. And that I remember that. Well, I kind of forgot about that whole situation until, I don't know, 2020 or something, and all of a sudden it came up in my mind again. It's like, I actually had the same idea as the government. That's really cool. But that's really bad. And it's funny, because when you talk to people in real life, most people don't understand, or they just don't care. They're like, yeah, it's fine, because they're making the decisions and I can't control it anyways. Or, yeah, they know what they're doing and inflation is kind of okay, but not really. And you're just losing a lot of buying power, especially in the way it's going now. Is you got a lot of inflation, but the pay is not really going up. Yeah, going up a little bit, but buying power overall is going down. And I would say that's a lot to do with the amount of money that's being printed, and they need to print more and more to keep the circus going, basically. What I want to say with that is that that's not another case of why holding a lot of fiat isn't necessarily the best way to go. When you look at wealthy individuals, where do they park their money? They don't have it on a bank account. They have it in assets, and regardless of what assets those are, it's a lot better than having it on a bank account. And that kind of hedges you against whatever is going to happen in the real world, whatever is going to happen with these fiat currencies. Because we can have a lot of theories, but unless it has happened, we don't really know. We have an idea, and we can plan according to that, but overall we don't really know. And so it's good to have a strategy for every possible situation. And I personally find crypto so interesting because we see a trend going, we see culture building, and we see the will of people without necessarily the possibility of these financial institutions to come stop the party, basically. It's just very interesting to see these power structures needing to deal with whatever we're doing. And I just find it interesting that no matter what's going to happen, the assets go up just because everything around it is crumbling. It's not necessarily like, I think you're winning if your buying power stays the same. Like, you're already at the top, which is kind of sad, but that's what I think what winning already looks like. And then you can win a lot more if you're earlier than other people to understand the different the different trends. So what is different from just buying a house or buying any other asset in the real world is that we can actually program money, and by programming money, we can program incentives and we can program behavior in an indirect way. Because as you can see in a price chart, it's all emotions. But I believe that if you program incentive the right way, eventually you're programming the direction. Because emotions can do what they want, but if a system works and the system just keeps on creating that base, then overall you're going to win just because of how the system works. And that's what I found most interesting about Hex at the beginning as well, that I just find it a very robust system. And no matter, as we can see, the price has dipped like crazy, but still the system has been working constantly. And I just find it very fascinating to even just see what's going to happen. Like, I'm just very, just fascinated by the system and how we programmed money, or I didn't do it, but there's money that's programmed, and something is going to happen because of that, as long as we stay with it. And what we see now in PulseChain, what I really appreciate about this whole culture that we're creating, is that there's different teams now building something that they believe in, building something to learn from, to try to tweak some parameters and see what happens, to see how we can all win. By what we're doing, I've been thinking about this. It's not often that you completely change something, that you are a pioneer in the world. It's not often that you get rewarded so heavily if you just keep on fighting that fight. Basically, a lot of pioneers they lose a lot to get a point across, let's say. But what we're seeing is that we can positively fight the bad financial decisions that this world is creating and get rewarded by fighting it. And the interesting thing is, if you fight something, you get a lot of pressure back. That's the whole fight. But what we're doing, if you do it right, obviously, is to kind of bypass that fight. We're just doing something else. And if we decide, just like with any money, if we decide that what we're doing is now the right thing, it's kind of like a hard fork of the financial system. It's kind of like, oh no, we're just doing this. But we need people for that, and we need beliefs, and we need actual culture, we need fun, we need fundamentals, we need all of these things. And so far, and please let me know afterwards if you found it, but so far I haven't found it anywhere else than in the PulseChain community, because there's such a strong fundamental belief and values that we're building upon. I don't really see any community that is so tied together and also so expansive in what we're doing and what we're creating. We are actually making that shift, and right now we're in that going the other way part. And as long as we now can point our faces in the right direction, then there's something very strong happening. That's why I wanted to come say in this talk, is that we're doing this together, and we're actually doing something very important. And it only takes us to just say, no, this is it, I'm here, and I stay no matter what happens, because eventually we're going to figure it out, and we figure out how to move forward. And that's why I made it this slide, is that we want to align incentives. We want to go forward. And what I find interesting is that these top things, Hex, PulseX, and PulseChain, these are the fundamentals. These are working as long as we stay the course and we keep on doing things. Because as everyone knows, PulseX, it just keeps on burning as long as we're just throwing things at it. And you don't even have to lose money because you can just trade, right? As long as money just flows through it, then value of the system just goes up, even if no one is, and there's no people entering, because eventually this number is just going to go up, and that incentivizes people to keep on doing that and also get people in, because that's just how the system works, and it's a beautiful thing. With PulseChain, it's just with the low fees, we can actually experiment. We can keep on doing things, and these things create the base of where we can go. It's the same with Ethereum, right? There's so much built on Ethereum, and that creates the value. If nothing else on Ethereum, it's just a ghost chain. Nothing happens. But the base needs to be there, and that's why it's very important. But if you just leave it on the side and you're building on top of it, the value is there. It's just it's on PulseChain, and so just because it's there, there's this flow of money, there's this flow of value that just keeps on compounding, basically. And well, I put a few coins underneath because I just find interesting how strong communities are getting. Like I think everyone has learned about HOAs, that no matter what you think about it, the prices go up. There's a lot of people very clingy on it, or they really grab hold of it, and there's just a strong community. The same, what I find interesting in A1A is that there's this entire liquidity web where we can actually make things work for us. We can make bots work for us. We can make liquidity pools work for us, and these things can pay us money just to be there. And as long as bots can make money, we can make money. And in this way, we have this whirlpool, basically, of value that keeps on compounding on each other. And it's just, there's a lot of different ecosystems that do the same thing. Maria is going to talk about the whole Atropa system, and I shouldn't talk about it because he knows a lot more. So, but it's very inspirational to see these things, because we can see that there is value, and we can see something is happening. And although not everyone understands it, including me, I'm still trying to figure out, okay, how exactly then. But it's there, and we see that something is working, and that's why we're all here, to learn, okay, how is it working, and what can we do more? What can we build on top? And again, I don't really see anything else like that around. Another interesting thing is Axis and SolidX, and the whole SolidX index, or Solid index, is there's this way that, for example, Axis, he can incentivize people to create a base for his own ecosystem, because there's this environment where there's this one big entity, which is basically just the Axis core coin. Because it's there, it can pay a certain amount to people to incentivize them to do things. And as long as that is in a healthy amount, it's kind of an inflation of a system. But you can direct it in certain ways, and you can direct it to build value on top of the ecosystem. And that's something that I found fascinating, because that means that you're basically, let's say a bank which has all this capital, and it just deploys a bit of money there and there and there to just keep on growing the influence of the bank. It's a new way that I found, where influencers can create some kind of stock element in their name, and if you believe that this influencer is going to do more better things, and there's trust involved, you can invest in that token, and as long as you see the values align of that influencer and you, there's a very interesting dynamic happening. And I just wanted to point that out, is that we see this happening with solid X as well, is that people are investing in people, in characters, in stories of those characters, and there's a lot of trust involved, which is not bad inherently. It's actually can be good, but there's risk involved with that as well, right? But it just creates a new layer of culture on the chain where, hey, we have these key figures and we're investing in them, and they can invest further down the chain, or they can do different things to align incentives, basically. And it's just very interesting to point out. I don't think a lot of people have really looked at that part. But it's less, it's the same system, let's say, like it creates incentives in one way, but it's more fluid because the influencer can basically choose which way to go, as long as you are committed, or as long as you see, hey, this is the right way, of this is what I want to do, then you can vote with your money, basically, and you can help that narrative. You can just stand in that team and say, hey, we're doing this. It's just interesting to notice. And then PTGC I also find very interesting. I just saw a stream of Access with Hayden of PTGC. It's just another example of people thinking about crypto in different ways, and looking at a lot of different other coins and see what works, what doesn't work. Okay, now we're going to do this and see if that works. And if it works, we actually have a new formula that generates more money for everyone. In these ways that everyone is testing and prototyping and experimenting, we can build on top of the wealth of the entire ecosystem, and we're becoming this big team that just has one incentive and has one common value, that we want to more people to be on chain and actually be financially free and do what the world needs, instead of just keep on trying to grift everyone else to get ahead. But it doesn't really work that way, because you always get imbalances that way. But if we can align our values, and if we can just move forward as a team, then we can get a lot further. And at some point, the rest of the world has to recognize that. And at some point, it just gets too big to fail. And then we're all here as one big happy team, basically. One thing that was asked of me, and I also find important, is that we move out of our bubble. We move out of our community to teach other people what's going on. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's hard to get people's attentions when they're fully into Solana or fully into something else. It's the same as if someone from Solana would approach me and say, hey, you should come to Solana, man. I'm like, nah, I'm good. But if you show it consistently, if you show important things, that might just show people there's value to be gained. And what was pointed out to me is that a lot of people are moving to dbank.com. It's basically just, I would say it's kind of like a Twitter, but then you can see people's portfolio, and you can see what they're interested in. You can basically just follow them, and it's more focused on what these people are doing, or what this wallet is doing, basically. When you can learn a lot of different things from these wallets. And what we also want to do as from a separate part of PulseChain is we need to get more people on platforms like these, where there's more, there's a lot of growth happening still. Because if you're there in the beginning, you have a lot more reach, and it's easier to reach people. And you can, for example, I know some people that you can do lucky draws, where you just put up some money, and then people can click the button and then maybe they win that amount of cash. In that way, you can get very high in the ranking real quick because it's there's still not a lot of people on the platform, and in that way, you might just get some people that you wouldn't get normally. It's not for everyone to do this, but I just wanted to put it forward for anyone that's interested, because you could get a lot of interesting contacts that way if you commit to it. Because if you're just there and you're not doing anything, obviously nothing is going to happen. But we wanted to put it forward. Just if someone does it, and if someone does it well, that's already a lot better than nothing. So that's yeah. And as lastly, this is my tag on Twitter. You can reach me, the Proof of Beard. What I wanted to point out as well is that hands up, who has a hardware wallet? That's good. Who listened to Papa B? Not a lot of people. Okay, interesting. What I found interesting is that everyone has a hardware wallet, but everyone just throws it around, and like everyone's very secure of this is my hardware wallet, here's my my value, and then it's just randomly somewhere in the drawer, or it's like in this carton box that it came with. And I found that annoying from the beginning that I got one, is that there's no real case for it, or there's no cool way to store it, or a nice quality way. And I kept on telling people, like, make something, because I'm sick of this carton box that's just deteriorating in my drawer. But no one made something, so then I made it myself. And I call it a hive case. It's like, for now we only have a model for the Trezor Model 1. It's this very nice fidgety thing that is kind of like a pack of cards. And you can slide it open, and you can fit a Trezor in there. And in the back you can have the cable. And it's interesting, we have a hex one and a PulseChain one. This is kind of like a button, because this is flexible, so you can push this and it pushes out the Trezor. So I found it very handy, and I was very happy that I made it. If you want one of these, or if you want for a ledgers, just contact me, because we're creating for every model we want to create a different version. But for now we only have the Model 1s, because it's still kind of like a prototype and we're just working on it. But you can already order these. Just send me a message on Proof of Beard, and eventually we're going to have a website. But for now, it's just this, because I just got very happy when I made this, and I just want to share it with people. Yeah, and with that, I think my talk is done. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Who's going to talk now? Well, who wants to talk?
Hello. So our next speaker is Crypto Profeta, and he caught the wrong train this morning, so he is running a little late. So I typically do a talk that's
I had no idea what time.
You were 5 minutes early.
So I'm just going to give a little bit of that while we wait on his arrival. He should be coming up. How many women do we have in here today? I'd say about 5, maybe 4 or 5.
Raise your hands, ladies. Raise your hands. Where you at? Represent.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
All right.
About 4. And then as we see, the rest of the room is pretty much men. But how many of the men here have a wife or a significant partner, someone that you would want to have access to your crypto if for whatever reason you were no longer able to, have it or be here on Earth? Okay, so then we have a lot more hands that go up. Let me just ask you a question. Why is it that these women aren't here with you today? Anybody want to answer that for me? Yes.
Not very tech savvy.
Not very tech savvy. Okay. But if you were to pass away tomorrow, would you be confident that she could access your crypto?
In some kind of way, yeah.
Because you've had some kind of friend set that up. And so what I like to do is I like to encourage the men to bring your significant others along, because a lot of times when we try to learn about crypto from our spouses, from our mates, it just doesn't relate, right? It just doesn't cross the way that we as women can a lot of times explain it to ourselves. So first I encourage you to bring them so that they can learn. But secondly, I encourage you to really see how important it is for them to really be able to push those buttons themselves. You can say that you trust somebody to do it for you, but the last thing that you want to happen is for you to put all your trust into that person, and then they don't take care of your family the way that they should. Something that I personally do, I've actually taught all of my children. I have 3 children, 18, 13, and 10, and all of them know how to access their wallets. All of them know their C words, where their C words are, and where our emergency family account is, right? I still have my own personal wallet. My husband still has his own personal wallet. But I know that if something was to happen to me tomorrow or my husband, my kids would still have access to something, right? And I think that that's a very important message that a lot of us don't always cross to our families. Just to give you guys a little bit of backstory on myself and my crypto journey, I got into crypto being a bit of a degen playing poker, right? I'm sure a lot of us have a similar, depending on how long you've been in crypto, you probably have more of a story of, you know, I was trying to buy this, or I was, you know, playing this game, or whatever it is, right? It probably just wasn't super traditional, like looking for financial investments, right? So I was playing crypto, I was playing poker, and the site that I was using, they decided to shut it down because they wanted to figure out how to tax the money more, right? And the only way that we can continue to play poker is if we transacted with Bitcoin. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know what this Bitcoin is, but sure, I'll give it a try. I bought, you know, a couple $100 worth, played in a tournament, won the tournament, put it back on Coinbase, stopped paying attention to it, went back to my regular life, and then once, what was that, 2017, late 2017, I started hearing all the commotion, right? All online, everywhere. Bitcoin, it's going up, it's going up. It's like, I think I have some of that Bitcoin stuff. So then I go back to my Coinbase, I look at my account where I had left like $200 in there. All of a sudden, it was closer to like $3,000. So I'm like, why am I playing poker? What is this? Right? My husband had been saying, there's something about this crypto. Everyone is saying all you need is one Bitcoin, you know, one Bitcoin. So he kind of keeps diving deep into it, where I kind of just sidetrack back into my regular life, but still maintain that crypto on centralized exchange. After a while, he gets really deep into the rabbit hole. It's DeFi summer. He's invested in probably 200 altcoins, just like a crazy number. And then all of a sudden, randomly one day, we kind of had like a game plan. Our game plan was going to be that we were going to go heavy into ETH, and then we were going to, you know, diversify into all these other little coins. And so one day he comes to me and he goes, I've been watching this guy, Richard Hart, and I'm just going to give him all our ETH. Whoa, like, slow down. I don't know who this guy is, but I don't want him having any of my ETH, right? So he's like, no, watch these videos, you'll get it, you'll understand. And so I watched this video, and he's wearing this top hat, and he's sitting in this weird chair, and I'm just like, no, like, who is this guy? What are you talking about? I'm not giving him anything. And then he goes a little bit deeper into the system, right? He tries to really explain to me what Hex is. And I think the thing that speaks to women in crypto more so than other cryptos, the thing about Hex, is the ability to just hold it, right? The ability to explain it in simple terms. We all use credit cards. We all essentially use digital money, right? And so for him to explain it to me in a way that says, you're already using digital money, but now, just for holding it in this system, you can now earn more crypto, And I'm thinking, okay, so similar to the bank, similar to a CD, but not this ridiculous less than 3%, right? This is legitimate passive income, especially long term. And as a mother, you think about long term. You think about planning for your child's next birthday. You think about them turning 18, them turning 21. I just had a daughter, she's out there, you guys might have seen her, just graduated high school, is on her way to college. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh, okay, I can set up a stake for the day that she graduates, and then whatever that is, that can go to her, and that's kind of like her ongoing savings plan. And that worked for me. That was a message that captured me, because what didn't capture me, I played in options trading. I had overslept the market and lost thousands of dollars because of an hour mistake on the clock, right? I had tried watching my husband with these swing trades, and it all just seemed so stressful. It just was not interesting for me. For a lot of you guys are deep DeFi guys that are like, I'm here for the mad gains, give me the most risky plays, all that. But for a lot of the wives, a lot of the women, we want realistic investment opportunities with passive opportunities, right? We don't want to dedicate our entire lives to it, but we do want to be within the system. And that's what Hex did for me. That was a message that spoke to me. Something that I could relate to, something that I could understand. And I think that is a message that we need to continue to embrace. PulseChain is a entire layer one, right? So we do need to encourage building, but if we want to see this room change a little bit to embrace more diversity within the genders, then we need to be able to explain it on a level that doesn't make us feel like we have to invest our entire lives into this space. That there are opportunities like farming. Farming has been amazing for me, right? Because I don't want the riskiest plays, but I do want to earn passive yield. So the fact that I could sit and have stablecoin and have Pulse or have whatever else and put that into a ink farm and continually see my crypto go up, multiply, that's something that I think is a narrative that speaks to our lady halves, right? And so I encourage you to teach them the opportunities that they have, to step in, but not necessarily commit all of their time to it. So that's my main message. I actually thought Crypto Profeta would be here by now. I'm not a 30-minute presenter. I like to just get in and give my little history and then get going. Mars, is Profeta out there? No? Where is SJ? I guess we can let her do her talk while we wait for him to come. Are there any ladies in here that have any particular questions that you would like to ask, that you would like to have a better understanding of, or just speak a little bit about where you are on this journey? What are the more complicated things for you to understand, or are you getting it and you're just like ready to move into the next chapters of crypto?
We shy?
We're normally shy a little bit. Yeah. So just another thing, something that is very important to both SJ and I is to continue to grow a community of women that support each other. So if you want to connect maybe after the seminar, exchange information, we build groups to be able to ask those questions that you don't want to ask in this big forum, and just be a resource for the women. I'm going to let SJ talk for a little bit until we get Profeta in here.
Thank you. What's up, everyone? That's a lot of things I would have said too. Hold on. But I will give you a little bit of my own backstory, because it's very different. That's one of the most awesome things to me about this community, is that so many of us, although we have very unique core, I think, values that a lot of us can agree upon, right? We want to see the money change. We want to see the world change. And I think that's a lot of the reason that we kind of jive, right? And we want to hang out together and see this succeed, right? So as a woman in this space, right, super minority, right? Because already in the world, it's less than 4% of the world owns crypto at this point. And then I can't even tell you, I mean, I don't even know what fraction of a percentage of women exist within this space, right? So for me, on my own personal journey, I've made more female friends in the last 3 years being in Hex than I have in my entire life. Because I feel like there's something just kind of different about us, right? Like someone had said that their partner's not into this because they're not tech savvy, right? I'm not totally tech savvy, but at the same time, the first thing I wanted for Christmas was like a Game Boy, you know? I've always kind of been on that edge, right? I loved gaming for a long time. I actually used to compete in Halo and then went on to work for Blizzard Entertainment. And even though I wasn't in the tech, you know, didn't do techie things, I did customer service, I did other things for them. But I always knew that I wanted to be kind of I wanted to know about the cutting edge, right? And crypto became that for me. So, and now it's a little bit of crypto and AI, which I think is, if you follow Richard and you're looking at his tweets, he's super into AI. So I love that he encourages us to leverage that, to use AI as something that's a great tool and a great resource to learn more about what it is that we can do. How can we move the message of Hex and PulseChain forward through utilizing AI? So let's see, how did this, so again, kind of going back to my own story, this is about 12 years ago, maybe more at this point. I had decided that I was going to sell. I bought a home in Austin, Texas, lived in it for a little while, and I decided I was going to sell it because I was tired of being in debt from student loans. I had the student loan debt just like for years and years and years, just weighing me down. And when I knew that I was going to do that, I've always been pretty financially smart. I liked saving. I was that kind of kid who my birthday and Christmas are kind of around the same time, and I would squirrel away my money or my gift cards and almost save them until the next year because I wanted to just like save everything up and then spend it all at once and get like some big item. So I've been smart about savings, but I never really could get ahead, right? Just kind of paying the bills month to month, getting everything done as I could. And I knew I was going to have a little more capital from selling this house. I was going to pay off my student loan, pay off a little bit of credit card debt, and then I'd have some money to put in the bank and put other places. So that's really where my journey began, because I wanted to make sure I was financially sound and financially secure on my own. And knowing that I was going to have this money coming in, I thought, okay, what are the ways that I can secure these finances so that they're either working for me or, you know, doing something so that it's the smart move, right? What is the smart move? So I started reading books about just, you know, Think and Grow Rich, right? Is a great classic book about thinking about your finances. There's another more recent one called You Are a Badass at Making Money. And getting into the mindset, that was the key for me, was realizing that money is out there, that I don't have to live in lack. I don't have to think, oh, I'm never going to have this much money, or this money is not for me. The money's for me. It's for you. It's for me. It's for everyone. There's enough out there for all of us to be very well off. So starting to have that mindset, I thought, okay, where am I going to put this money so that it's doing something for me? So I started with a high yield savings account, which is such a joke, especially in the US, because the inflation versus your high yield savings, it's like you're never going to catch up. It's never going to make the money that you'd think it would. And then I looked into a 401k, right? Just like some of those long-term savings, which I like the way RG puts it. He says turns into a 104k, right? Because it's the same idea. You're putting this money away somewhere thinking it's going to increase and do something for you, but the inflation is so astronomical that there's just no way. Then I started looking into options trading. I thought, oh, that's smart, right? That's something. People can make money doing options trading. And lucky for me, I have a friend who some of you may know him, Crypto Kool-Aid. I've known him for over 10 years. We lived in Austin together, and just as friends. And he came to me without knowing, had no clue that I was selling my house. And he said, hey, and tiny backstory, he had seen years before this that I bought a little bit of Bitcoin, like a tiny little bit. I think I must have mentioned it on Facebook because he reached out to me and he said, take that Bitcoin and put it into, I think I bought XLM and Bitcoin Cash and something else. So I diversified, and this is 2017. This is my first crypto ever, and then forgot about it. I just left it. I might have made a bunch and then lost it all and had no clue, just totally didn't touch it. So he came back to me around 2021, and he says, hey, all those little coins that you invested in, I want you to take those and put that all into Hex. And again, without him knowing, I was like, well, I had a little bit of money set aside that I knew I was going to put into crypto. And he said, I know I'm your friend and I know you trust me. And this is unbeknownst. I had no idea he was into crypto as much as he was. Like, he used to do all the ICOs and was influencing and things like that. And I had no clue. I just knew him as my crazy, sweaty dancing friend. Like, that was it for me. So I come to find out, he's very much into this culture and very much into, the community. And he says, you know me, but I don't want you to trust me. I want you to listen to these people. And he gave me crypto coffee, right? Whale's Only One. He actually didn't really, he might have mentioned who Richard was, but he didn't tell me to watch Richard. So I didn't at first. And it worked out well because the way that Whale's Only One speaks about Hex and the fact that I had just took an options trading class, it clicked really easy because I was already in that mindset, and he works for the stock exchange. So that worked out really well. And I spent 6 months kind of listening to all these influencers and thought, okay, this makes way more sense than a high yield savings account, than options trading, than all these other things I had thought to put my money into. So I started taking little pieces of that and putting that into Hex. And then once I felt secure enough, I thought, okay, I like this. There seems to be a cool community. I'm learning a lot. I feel very smart. But who is Richard Hart? What is this guy doing, shaking his butt and opening Louis Vuitton bags? And, I had no clue who he was. So that's how I found SciVive. I found out from someone he had written a book, and I thought, okay, cool. Well, if I'm going to learn about this man, then I might as well read the book he's written, right? And before this, I had been an actress. So I was kind of familiar with acting in the acting world and voiceovers and things like that. And I thought, well, if I'm going to read it anyways, there's no audiobook. I might as well just record myself reading it. And I'll tell you, that book, it's changed my life. And that's why I redid it and edited it and spent all that time doing those things. So that's a little bit of my journey, right? Like how I got in here. And I'm telling you, if you, especially if you're a woman and you have just any kind of inkling to do anything in the way of being more public facing, please consider it, because the more of us that are out there talking about this and bringing our own heart and our own abilities to this space, you don't know what doors you're going to open. So that's it for me. Yeah.
Crypto Profeta.
Nice to meet you. This is my pocket. You got all the notes.
So how you guys doing today? Good? See a lot of faces in here. As you guys know already, I'm Crypto Profeta. Nice to see everyone from PulseChain, Hexicans in here. As you guys know me already, I'm a very controversial guy online, called the Hex Stuff. And of course, I'm here to talk about the onboarding in crypto and my journey in crypto. I don't want to take too much time with you. If you guys can go to Casey's YouTube channel, and you can see my biography there. So I speak Dutch, German, yeah. I have a difference between what I'm saying, right? So yeah, I've been in crypto since 2014, but I got in Bitcoin since 2009, right? But I didn't took action, so I took the decision to start doing crypto a while back and start analyzing and checking what's going on in the crypto market. And from there on, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me go into crypto. You guys know already the ICO time of 2017 got wrecked all the way, right? But I didn't stop there. I just keep on going, and then I found Hex in 2019 December. From there on, I took stuff. I started doing stuff. I did a couple of videos back then, and I still have it on my YouTube channel now. And I was talking about Hex, whatever token you could have found there. And then I found out that, good. So from there on, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to focus myself on onboarding people into crypto in generally. And that's when I was like, okay, you know what? I have to start getting the understanding of what I'm doing, how I can give this message to people so they can come to crypto. So onboarding people into PulseChain is one of the main, it has been a bit difficult because of the history we have, but it's not impossible. So I found a way to do that. I found a way on Twitter to reverse engineer what we call reverse engineer the strategy on onboarding people into PulseChain, on the PulseChain community. And as you guys know already, I'm involved in almost all the community outside of PulseChain and also in PulseChain. So you can name all of them. And I've bought all the tokens you can imagine in your life. So I'm that guy. I'm that guy that go on and I want to set the record straight. I want to be the guy that bought all the tokens that are still alive in crypto. So yeah, so I'm the mouse that I'm will be testing stuff so you guys don't get wrecked, okay? So keep that in mind. Yes, so onboarding is one of the most important things that we need as a community to do. And why I'm saying this is because that we have a history on being one of the best community out there. And I'm not saying because you guys are here, but you guys know already we have been there. So being one of the best community and have one of the best knowledgeable people within the crypto industry has helped us to come a long way within crypto, right? So my strategy, and also one of the main things that I've been talking to a lot of developers within the PulseChain ecosystem, is create a strategy like we have been seeing with different chains like Arbitrum, Optimism, zkSync, and all these type of chains that have developed and grown a community based on creating quests. So for a lot of you are not familiar with quests, quests are things that people need to do to onboard people into different projects. For example, a lot of people don't know how to swap, so we create a quest. So in that quest, you can swap and understand how to swap, what is the chain, how the chain works. And that's how we have been, I have been incentivize people to create quests on PulseChain so they can grow their own brand on the ecosystem on PulseChain. So onboarding is very important, and you guys need to know there is a lot of strategy as a community, because it's not only buying the token, but also engaging with a lot of people around us to help each other grow the community, because that's what we all about, right? Creating a better community, growing the community, and also keep the community intact from all these nonsense that we are seeing out there, right? So one of the main strategy that I have been implementing on different projects on PulseChain, for example, Hocus Pocus, Apium, and Tengang, and a lot of different tokens, I have learned from different projects on different chains that creating a quest is one of the best things you can do to onboard people. And how we can do this by sharing the knowledge to different people, because not everyone knows about quests. Not only quests, but also make crypto easy for people to understand. How we can make crypto easy for people to understand? Very simple. Let's take, for example, you have Apple and you have Android, right? So those are the two examples we have how we can onboard people into crypto. We can take an example of Apple being Ethereum and Android being PulseChain, so I would say like that, right? So that's one of the main simple way how we can make people understand how easy it is to onboard people into crypto. So of course, we also have, I don't know if you guys have been on Base, but Base also have been creating this strategy, and I have been picking everything from different community to trying to adapt it into PulseChain so we can grow a better community, a non-toxic community. But you guys know that's not gonna happen. But I mean, like, okay, grow the community in a certain way that we as people know that we can keep on going within this ecosystem. So yeah, they didn't put it up there, but we have to talk about introducing people into crypto, how to make it easier for people to understand crypto. You got, all of you know Chain on Chain Now, Change Now. So that's a bridge that we are using, but I'm also using different way to come in. For example, I'm using Rubik to go from different chains. You guys, if you saw my videos yesterday, I was talking about how you can bridge from different chains into PulseChain by using Rubik, and because I'm on all the chains, I can bridge very easy into PulseChain by just using Rubik. Rubik is one of the best bridges out there that have all the EVMs, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, Cardano, whatever you want, they are on Rubik, and you can just go from Ton to Arbitrum, all of these chains, you can go into PulseChain. So let's make it easy for people to understand how they can come into crypto by using these applications. For example, we have the ZillaQuest. ZillaQuest is also very important. We have been using ZillaQuest for our latest airdrop we did on Apium. So we have been trying to onboard people between Twitter, onboarding people between the different chains, and going back into PulseChain by just APing into different tokens. So yeah, for me, I'm not gonna extend it too long, but I have to say that onboarding people into crypto has got very, very easy, okay? So let's not make it difficult for people. When they ask you a question, make it as easy as possible. We have ChatGPT to help us, yes, to onboard people into crypto. Is the most easier thing that I found in my life. ChatGPT can explain, you can just pour in your information and let people talk about so yeah, oh, better. Thank you, guys. Understanding the basics. Understanding the basics is very important. If we cannot explain to people how easy it is to get in PulseChain, it will be very difficult to onboard more people into PulseChain. Let's get that out of the bat right away, okay? Let's make it easy for people to understand what PulseChain is, how we can introduce them into PulseChain, because 2 weeks ago, I tried to explain someone how to get into PulseChain, and thank God I had Rubik. Otherwise, it was, it was damage. Okay, so creating applications. I don't know how much developers are in here today. Can you raise your hands? Developers? Good. So developing apps that make it easy for people to come into PulseChain would be the best thing you guys can do on PulseChain right now. I don't know if you guys know Pulse, the bridge, the Pulse bridge. Yeah, Pulse bridge. Yes, Pulse bridge, we have Rubik, we have a lot of bridges out there that help people to come into it. So that's one of the main things. Understanding the terms and wallet, Pulse wallet. Do you guys have Pulse wallet? Nobody has Pulse wallet. So how much of you are using Rabby right now? How much of you are using MetaMask? So you guys see, so a lot of people are using MetaMask, a lot of people are using Rabby, but one of the easiest way to onboard people into PulseChain is by using the Pulse wallet. You guys didn't know, because they have also all the chains right into their wallet, okay? So I'm not telling you to not using it. Keep using your wallet, because Rabby is very easy and very fast. But okay, wallet security, that's also one of the main things if you're going to onboard people into crypto. Keep in mind, telling them to save their keys, not on the phone, not on the computer. Keep it safe, okay? So yeah, I would like to keep on going. I can go for 4 minutes. Okay, good. 4 minutes. Let me share something with you guys today. And So we talked about buying crypto. That's make it easy using. So the marketing strategy that I was working on was the Quest. And also one thing that I knew is I found out the algorithm of Twitter has changed very fast. So how much of you guys are on Twitter? You see how easy it is, right? So follow me on Twitter, follow the old and I found out that the Twitter algorithm has changed very fast. So back in the days, I used to make a lot of educational tweets, right? Thread X, whatever you want to call it. And I found out those doesn't work anymore. What works right now is creating questions and make people answer them. So how we can manage to incentivize people to talk about PulseChain without incentivizing them to talk about PulseChain. How we can do that? By create questions on X so they can answer the question themselves, and then people will start interacting with them by answering also. Because someone said that there is no dumb question, but there are people that really, really type dumb questions so smart people can answer them, right? But they're not dumb questions. They're just inverted questions so people can. So using Twitter as our main weapon as a community by tagging each other, retweet to each other, talking about the community will help us within the crypto space on Twitter to build up better community, safe community, and non-toxic community. I have to say it sometimes again, but the toxicity helps, right? Because that's how Twitter reacts to the spaces, right? So it will send out all your tweet to everyone because you said something and that triggered someone. So it's very sad, but I have to say that's how Twitter works right now. I'm not telling you go and create a lot of toxic, thread. No, I'm just telling you that's how the algorithm works. So now we as community can use this algorithm and start sharing the word of PulseChain around so people can come into PulseChain, adjust themselves, know how it works, and start aping into the future of PulseChain. How much of you guys are ready to ape in the end of this year? Yeah, you see, there's two. Yeah. We are ready to go, guys. We're ready to go. We are ready to rock. And I want to share another thing before I finish. 1 minute, right? And it is, I've been doing some research, very deep research on what's going to happen with PulseChain. Do you guys want to know it? Yes? So you guys have to stay until the end. Thank you guys for being here. Well, thank you.
Now I have a feeling that this is the presentation that most of you have been waiting for. Our Atropa founder, the 414 Dev, Maria Rahel, is that how you say it? Oh, okay. Love that.
So we don't have the note cards up on the screen. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah.
I think sticker guys can help
Is that
you with
better?
Yeah. Well, no, you need to use that, but this is for the live stream.
Okay.
Yeah. So clip that. I love your outfit.
Should that work?
We stick that in the pocket.
Okay.
There you go. Nailed it.
You can change it with the arrow.
Okay. So. Perfect. Okay. I think most everybody can probably kind of see that. So first of all, thanks to everybody who showed up for the party last night. It's kind of amazing seeing so many people in one room. I don't think I see maybe like half of everybody here showed up early yesterday. Yeah, it was interesting and kind of amazing. So I think what I want to talk about mostly is ethics and vulnerability, and how ethics and vulnerability led me to do this. In terms of crypto, I've been in more or less since the beginning, and I've seen all of the exploits at this point. In terms of vulnerability, I think we've seen there's clearly a lot more to come as far as what's going to be exploitable. But if we look at the vulnerabilities that were exploited in crypto up to this point, and the ethics that have been displayed in crypto up to this point, the ethics of Hex is really what brought me into it. And it's at this point largely because of the communication around how communication becomes vulnerability mitigation. So in watching Richard Hart over the last many years, since the beginning of his YouTube career, the nature of the discussion has been consistent and has been focusing on a central point in an ethics type of capacity. I think we all feel that we know what's expected in terms of the forward momentum of the system. We know that there are expectations of exploitations of vulnerabilities, and we know that there are additional expectations of wanting to produce a chain that is intrinsically secure. So essentially bypassing all of the potential vulnerability markers and producing something that no longer is vulnerable. So during the initial couple of weeks, month of Pulse, I exploited the vulnerability very heavily. I ended up with a bag of over $5 billion in the P-stable currency. It was not worth $5 billion. It had tanked to the point where, if I remember right, 70 million of the P-die was pocket change. And that's how I ended up with 5 billion of that. That 5 billion, I presumed, having been pocket change at that point, it's not going to make the cut as far as stock-wise filling the order to get it to $1 if somebody's holding 20% of the supply. And so the Atropa token was created. The Atropa token was created initially by burning against the majority of the bag of P-stables, with my presumption that by putting this token into the PulseChain, it could start a dialogue of kind of like fated nature, of whether the impetus and the setup that began at moment one on PulseChain would actually ever reach the top bar. So there's a certain number of goals that have to be met for total success if we presume that everything we've watched Richard produce over this time is going to hold true to his ethic. And in my opinion, that is E-hex and P-hex have to be 1-to-1. All of the P-stables have to be $1. All of the stables, if we're calling them, have to stay at $1. And the WBTC and ETH coins, if they are to match the success of, they should match the success or failure of those tokens within the non-PulseChain ecosystem. And so the best strategy that I had seen up until that point for providing value to investors matched up with holding this huge bag of tokens that potentially are someday going to be worth an exorbitant amount, more than I want, and at that moment are worth quite a bit. It's 6 figures, maybe 7, but overall at the very bottom it was not looking great. And so the 3 billion P-DAI, 2 billion PUSDC were initially set into the liquidity on Atropa and burned. And what this set up in terms of crypto to date is the largest attempt at non-mintable burned liquidity option for crypto investment. And we'd seen several already to that point, coins that had been based off of burned liquidity. And for my experience with them, they all failed because they were mintable. This one was not. This one, I think, it might or might not have been initially mintable, but by now it's renounced. Around the time Teddy Bear was released, I went through all the tokens along the way that I had set up with vulnerability mitigation strategies. Should things go wrong, I can pull. By the time Teddy Bear was set up, I had passed the bar for never ever needing to pull again, and so all of the contracts were renounced at that point. And the Atropa ecosystem really took its life at that stage. At this point, the numbers that I feel are core to the system are related to the Atropa token, the TSFI token, the DAON token, and the legal token. The Atropa token's the initial token that was set up to fund everything. The TSFI token was set up initially with the thought of rewarding people that I had known for a long time that would find the Atropa name, find the TSFI name, immediately know it's me, feel like they already had trust in me, and they could jump in and swim with the system. At this point, the 300 million down and 200K TSFI, if you look at TSFI, it's a 1 million supply, so 200K is 20% of that. Of the numbers over here in the burn percentage, for anyone that doesn't know what that burned liquidity is right now, I feel like ethically you should rewind the video or restart your career in crypto, because you should have that by now. The LP percent versus burned LP percent maybe is a little more difficult. So if you have, say, $5 million and it's thrown away, it's on burned liquidity, and your total liquidity is only 15% more of that. So you only retained, I don't know, $1 million, $1.5 million out of, say, a $7 million initial halving. Essentially sacrificing in the way that Richard posed might be a concept to consider within this community. The end result of retaining 50% burned LP and only 15% more LP at all, and only retaining 1.2% of the entire supply of Atropa, meant that with the creation of the Atropa token, the source was retaining very, very little. The TSFI and DAON tokens were created to mitigate that for myself and for persons that I know would jump on and immediately know TSFI is the team token. The 1 million supply on the team token is intended to exploit that the lower supply is going to lead to number go up earlier, whereas a 1 billion supply, which is on some of these others, is going to take quite a bit longer, especially if you have this huge, at this point, I don't know the numbers today, but I'm looking more or less at a $40 million burned LP on Atropa alone. That number, as the P stables go up, as WBTC goes up, is going to go farther and farther up. And what we're going to end up with by the time P stables get to $1, Atropa won't really be buy-inable so much anymore. There's no one that's going to deposit $1 billion into Atropa at that point, in my opinion. There'd be no real reason to. It's going to be a a stabilized token that stabilizes with the stable assets. The down token was created specifically for me. So the strategy with this team token is everybody needs to invest into it, and as the team invests into it, the team all supports each other, and the number blows up. With the down token, it's more of a long-term strategy of knowing that at the bottom level, when Atropa tokens are converted into down tokens, at the very least, those down tokens are convertible back into Atropa at the same amount, more or less, since it was at inception, for the entire lifetime of those contracts on the blockchain. So the exploitation from my perspective, if I'm really going to exploit this system, I've exploited it already by creating this down token, by holding a total of about 15% of it. And so my 15% mark over the Atropa token, if the down token goes up and up and up and up, and say exceeds the value eventually of the Atropa token, then the number I'm going to see is eventually going to make up for the sacrifice that I made. So I did not sacrifice during the hex sacrifice stage. I thought that seemed really weird. Within the whole hex experience, that's been the only portion of events that's really left me with questions. Because we had $2 trillion market cap for the entire crypto industry at that point. And the number that it dropped down to was well below 1 trillion. So we saw more than $1 trillion leave crypto as the war was starting. My perspective on having known that money left the crypto ecosystem is that money eventually comes back into the crypto ecosystem. I think we're starting to see that. I don't know all of the factors that relate to why that goes faster or slower, but I still believe that it'll occur. The legal token was set up after the TSFI and down tokens were placed off of the Atropa token and was initially a fully burned supply. So no tokens of the legal were initially retained at all. And after burning, it had to be bought in from my retained bag at price. So the legal token was actually the first token in the system that, in my opinion, if I'm judging legal fairness, it's the first token that is truly fair in terms of its deployment. It's not necessarily the token that's going to return the most profit for anybody, but I wanted to seal off the financial input part of the ecosystem from anything else further that would be developed. At the time I released the legal token, I wasn't entirely sure, beyond it being legally fair, if there was any more ecosystem to produce after that. But what we ended up with was all of these. If I summarize the entire ecosystem into, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tokens. And so these 7 tokens represent the 1-year effort beyond the initial release of the Atropa token for everything that's been released in the ecosystem at all, which is over 100 tokens at this point, if we count the 666 tokens, and is, I think, around 50 tokens if we don't count those. To go through these in order, which is why I put them up here in order, what I wanted to talk about most in terms of ethics and vulnerability is the Stay token, how it was released, how the IRC channel discussion, one-way discussion, led to the culminating event of where I could declare withinness of legal proceedings. So the stay of proceedings token represents literally a stay of proceedings token. So if that token was placed into the ecosystem and the cryptocurrency markets properly at that time with the discussion within the IRC channel, the idea was at that moment it literally opened a legal stay of proceedings where there are expectations, there are ethics, and there are known vulnerabilities. And the idea is, as long as that token stays in the ecosystem, that the stay of proceedings continues, and that I, at least, stay within it. So far, I haven't been able to, within my mindset of what all that means, bring anyone else into this forward momentum that, because it's so well defined, becomes effortless from my perspective. And that was overall the goal of putting that token out there, of establishing it the way it is. The stay token, the independence token, and the BFF token that you see down here, they're designed in a way different from anything else that we've ever seen in crypto before, and we haven't seen them function yet. So my theory is if you have the widest distribution possible of the asset, that all of the transaction-based activities that occur on that asset, once it's as widely distributed as possible, end up having the most effect on price, but in a specifically non-vulnerable way, because a bottom line's been established where everybody got the tokens and nobody's really at a point to sell out if it's launched correctly with this huge set of LP around it. So having 3 of these tokens, the independence token is more or less the last token of the ecosystem overall. The new code base, which I won't go into today, is going to take on a new life of its own as a secondary ecosystem to the Atropa ecosystem. The release of the independence token is supposed to mostly signify that everything's in place now, that the surprises should all be covered, the exploitations potential should all already be covered within our chat log on IRC. I don't know how many copies we have of it. Is anybody keeping a copy of the chat log? We have 2, 3 at least. So that's excellent. The purpose of the chat log is 100% accountability. Moment to moment, in relation to the stay of proceedings, in relation to the independence that should be grantable if all of the statements are factual and all of the evidence is true. The independence of investing into this system should be such, and I think that we have literally shown 100% of everybody that's gotten into the system is in a profit place at this point. We don't have anybody at a loss, as far as I know. That's the hardest thing that's been done in crypto to date, also as far as I know. The teddy bear token represents, to me, the meme of what all that means. So if the teddy bear token is the meme token overall for, at the lowest, simplest level, what I want to provide with all of this, with the strategy for burning the liquidity, for setting everything up specifically within PulseChain, with its ethical direction as I have perceived it over time, and the continuity that I expect of it And that's kind of where the teddy bear comes in. So I'm most interested, meme-wise, for any meme token, that it really takes on a not a life or a personality on its own, but a requirement of its own. So by releasing a teddy bear meme token, every teddy bear imaginable should be in support if this system is ethical and not vulnerable. The teddy bear should be like about that. The teddy bear is invented about that. The teddy bear is gifted about that. So every teddy bear, if we go through literally just real teddy bears, AI teddy bears, any kind of teddy bear you just draw on a piece of paper. Can you draw a teddy bear that has anger in its heart towards the ecosystem? Maybe. I don't know. Probably one could. I really want to see it. Artwork-wise, that would be amazing. But if we compare the teddy bear token to other meme tokens, so Doge, I think is the top one that has any sort of real momentum within the non-crypto world. So everybody more or less knows about Doge. But you see a Doge, say, like walking with a human, and it's not necessarily a crypto Doge. For the most part, this entire breed of dogs, as much as they would really like them to be representative and like on the street team for the Dogecoin, they're not. I feel that it is possible that the teddy bears, not on the street, potentially on the street, but that the teddy bears could be a real viable momentum forward for selling trust in the ecosystem if the ethics are correct and if the vulnerabilities are not overtly exploitable. The Treasury bill, which is drawn off the teddy bear, is intended over time to take on its function, specifically probably in relation to the secondary ecosystem that will be developed, based on how the teddy bear represents the trust in the success of the ecosystem, the Atropa ecosystem, and the future ecosystem as they grow together. The Treasury bill is currently held in large portion by the Treasury. You'll see 250 million out of $1 billion. That's obviously a lot. It's also mintable. It is the only mintable token in the ecosystem as far as you can mint any number you want. There's a number of tokens that are regardless of the fact that the initial buy-ins, I think, were in the 2-digit range, like $30. My hope was everyone would buy these tokens, however many they wanted. There are only 777. And we would all just hold until the token got to 8K. And then whoever wanted to sell their token for 8K could do that as long as it didn't drop below 8K. I think what we saw as people bought in was the same thing that happened to me with the holding of the huge supply of PDI and USDC and all the P stables. you just know if you're holding that much, there's a different reality to how the token's going to behave, because you're more a part of it maybe than you jumped in too soon. You knew it was profitable, and in the end, you don't really want that much profit. We're several months into the BFF token at this point, and we're getting close to the 8K mark. A lot of tokens have been sold below the 8K number, even though we've hit it a couple of times. The idea is once we hit that 8K number, I still hold, is the number up there? Yeah, I still hold 173 out of 777 of these tokens. Those 173 tokens, at least half of them, will be placed into burned LP strategies while maintaining this 8K number. So we'll establish the bottom line, we'll be establishing a bottom line number for the BFF token such that everybody getting into it will still be in this, not a guarantee, because I don't know how to write that yet, but a known 100% everybody's in profit, nobody's at a loss. Which brings us to this OT token, which is called Scissors. That one I control almost all of. Scissors and reading and writing. Writing I have bought back to the point where I control all of it again. The target numbers over here, which you'll have seen, are overall targets for all of the tokens. They're not necessarily meant to be, they won't all be hit at the same time, but those are the numbers I'm looking for next activity on any of these tokens in this list. Like I said, the Atropa ecosystem, from my perspective, is more or less closed at this point, other than once these targets are hit, and a couple of other potential analysis audit points. I won't be causing any major movement within my tokens regardless, but I certainly won't be causing any major movement without specifically being within an established audit in-safe process within the IRC channel. The OT token is meant to represent that you know that I'm doing that. So if you really want to support me directly, that's the one that I'm possibly going to exploit. So expect that one. If I want the cash, it'll drop. Because I have the capacity to do that. Yeah, right? That's what we all do. Yeah, I kind of glossed through a number of the numbers. I kind of just like having them up there on the screen because they're the targets and the factual state of the current ecosystem. And to the best of my knowledge, they're incontrovertible evidence within what I would like to establish for others beyond myself as this state of process proceedings. Yeah. So I went through that a little bit quick. Like I said, the party last night was pretty great. I did not sleep. Yeah. We have time for questions anyway. So I guess, so the last one is the writing token. That language is from the Maldives. The spoken version of that language was originally called Gilbertese. We have a HAR token. It's an upside down R. They're the family that created it, the writing system. Do you have specific questions about it?
Yeah, so we're going to open up the questions to the audience.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
If you have a question,
There'll be a lot.
just kind of raise your hand and then stand when we point to you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what can we do to support the ecosystem as it is now? Like, what could we do?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have asked that, and the ethical answer is I don't care. So my purpose was setting up a technology. So if the technology is valuable, you can either emulate it or you can use it. The Atropa ecosystem, in terms of what can you do the most for it, is really emulate it. It's make your own. It's take your bag of WBTC and burn it against your own token while retaining some portion of the supply, and extend your token by continuing to burn portions and retaining portions of the supply. I think communicating how I arrive at the numbers that I like to someone else is difficult. So for example, if I have a bag of however many WBTC, which right now is in the $200 range, we're seeing the real BTC will soon be over 100K. I feel there's really no stopping it. As that real BTC number goes up, the PulseChain local BTC version, if we're meeting our metrics, there's no reason that that large overflow of BTC profit doesn't come in to bring this tiny little PulseChain BTC token way up. And so if you're burning specifically off of a token like that, that you know if all our metrics hit and the system is successful, then your token that's tied to it is going to be successful automatically just by the technology that the tokens it's tied to go up. I think in terms of what you can do the most, what I believe, what I have done the most for myself in terms of this is that strategy exactly. And so that's what I would recommend.
Next question. And if you could do me a favor, just to respect our live stream audience, after they ask, if you could repeat the question in the microphone,
Okay.
that'd be great. All right. Who's that?
I was wondering if you had any intel or like thoughts on the Mantisa token and maybe the Lilies aspect, and what's your goals and around that?
Okay, so the question is about the Mantissa and the Lilies token. So that portion, the ecosystem is divided into the Atropa token and the tokens that are close to it, which are the finance tokens. The Mantissa and Lilies token, which are sort of the institutionally minded tokens. The 666 tokens, which are the discard, I don't necessarily want to deal with them, but they might come back later tokens. The teddy bear token is meant to be the public-facing portion of the ecosystem, and everything that's close to Buckingham is supposed to be the private portion of the ecosystem. You'll notice that all the tokens that are close to the Buckingham token, they don't have a lot of value at the moment. They don't have a lot of LP that's expected to go up significantly. The idea is that as the Mantissa grows, as the institutional portion of the assets grow, that the private portion will be funded through that, and the institutional portion will represent sort of obligations that the system has to vulnerabilities that exist, not ethically, but aggressively, in terms of what I most want to do with the success of the ecosystem.
What's the position of Greenland then?
Right, the position of Greenland is within the institutional portion. I visited Greenland, and it was pretty great. I didn't communicate a whole lot of crypto-related information, but in terms of the communities that I most want to serve, it's essentially, you can see that's represented within the tokens that have gone into the institutional portion of the system. The Greenland token, the Lilies token, which is about Central Asia, and the Mantissa token, which is about my own family line.
You were next? No? Then please you.
Okay.
Can you please repeat again the question? Sorry, Maria.
Mm.
Yeah, why do you believe that EX and PX should hold a similar value?
So EHEX and PHEX holding similar value is related to my personal vision of what is the success metric for Pulse. So if hex is a continuance asset, if there is a 5555 out there, then hex needs to make it to 5555. I feel like, especially everyone that sacrificed, really feels like that number, we need to get there. The EHEX versus PHEX version, so world's largest airdrop, right? If the world's largest airdrop means giving the tokens you had before on the old system on the new system, but your old tokens aren't worth anything, and the old tokens are on a system that uses a ton of gas, and the new system doesn't use any gas, then that's one success. But overall, if the Ethereum hex, which was propositioned for a 5555, if it's just decided it's not going to make it, then I feel the whole PulseChain won't make it. The understanding that I have between the community, between all of this new AI stuff, and the continuity that we retain is that that mark is still there. That mark is still there for Ethereum. That mark is more there for the Pulse side because of the low gas fees. But specifically, if we get staking of the EHEX on the Pulse side, which is one thing that I'm waiting for to know that Ethereum is approved to not fail. If Ethereum fails and EHEX fails, that's fine, because that whole system can go at that point. It's not Hex that failed, it's Ethereum that failed, if it doesn't make it. But if Ethereum makes it, then Hex on Ethereum needs to make that 5555, or Richard's lost. And I don't think any of us want to see Richard's lost. Right? Yeah. Right. Is that a sufficient answer, or do you need more depth?
Yeah,
Or
you showed your vision on it, but I think, yeah, especially what Richard Hart basically bashing EX, should we consider EX more like Ethereum Classic, like there's now also the new
So,
Ethereum?
a lot of people are saying that Richard's bashing EHEX. I have not come across those words being said or those words being produced in his writing in any form. It crashed, and a lot of the community said things about it, but Richard did not. And so, from the perspective of the voice of Hex, I have not heard from the voice of Hex in any form that EHEX is not going to make it. I have heard some inklings that Ethereum might not make it, but those are two different things.
Yeah, basically that the Hex on PulseChain is the better version, so
Yeah.
less of the chain.
The gas fees on Ethereum are unacceptable.
Yeah.
I think we all know that. If the gas fees on Ethereum can suddenly be made acceptable, it's a whole new game for them. If it stays the way it is, I still believe EHEX can make it on PulseChain with staking on the Pulse side. I think EHEX can make it on Ethereum without staking. But if it's costing $100 to end stakes, then it's out.
But is it better to have all that monetary power in one coin, so it won't be split over two coins, but everything into EHEX?
But so the argument that if That is, it would be better to have one set of coins versus two sets of coins. That approach is centralization, and we obviously don't want that. I believe we'd like to see as many copies as possible all having one-to-one ratio to each other. The question of supply is a secondary thing. And there's a huge amount of hex supply that's held by the hex creation addresses, that's on stakes from the creation addresses, etc. And so if the tanking of the eHex price is, in my hope, if the tanking of the eHex price is meant to provide more incentive to go into eHex, similar to the incentive currently to go into P-stables, similar to the incentive to go into WBTC, while PulseChain grows and meets its mark as better than Ethereum, which I don't think we can say that the whole public has addressed and accepted that Pulse is better in that way. We're on the way to it. When we hit that mark, it's a different question. But from my opinion, if the hex origins originally held about 50% of supply, something like that, 40%, the number is very high. Putting it on two chains and having double the number of tokens, it's not that big of a jump. They still have the exorbitant amount of supply. And so tanking one of them to get more of that supply into the hands of investors is possibly a good move. And I purchased 100 million eHex after it dropped. I expect that will, I expect them to go one-to-one, regardless.
Somebody else got a question to follow up? Please go ahead.
Could you speak a little bit more about which tokens you may have a vision for burning liquidity into BFF with?
Yeah, so burning into BFF, the strategies on the stay of proceedings token and on the independence token were slightly different. The independence token burnings were supposed to be related to tokens within every token within the entire ecosystem. Everything's in the addresses.sol on GitHub, but every token within the ecosystem that has an independence capability. So there's a few that were left out. I don't recall off the top of my head which ones were left out. I believe the stay of proceedings or independence ended up with more than the other. The idea for the BFF token is it will have more LP than either of those two. If we start to see success on the stay of proceedings token or the independence token, I expect we'll see investment into the BFF token, and those LPs will start to be provided. But from my outlook, the BFF LP will be provided against every single token within the addresses.sol file to the ratio of 1 BFF to the value of 1 BFF of the other token. And so by the time this BFF token has, I don't know, how many tokens are in the, does anybody know how many tokens are in the addresses.sol? No. Like I said, it's 60, 70, somewhere around there. And so with 70 LP pools, and they're all at 1 to value of 1, as the value of ones go up, the BFF number has to go up as well. And as the BFF numbers go up, all of the attached tokens have to go up as well. So what you end up is this like springboard kind of effect as anything goes up. And so the concept between having all three of these tokens operating at the same time with these strategies is that you will literally see like a solid trampoline kind of effect on what the price does. We haven't seen it yet, it's just a theory, but that's what I expect to see. In the back.
Yeah, I'm seeing that in the Atropa new contracts, Telegram group, still creating more tokens. What is the meaning of creating more tokens? Is it still about finding vulnerability within
different contracts or is just for fun?
So the new tokens that are being created at this point are part of the cryptography work that I have been doing for the majority of the last portion of my career, totally unrelated to crypto. So I've ported that code into Solidity, and it's now a minimal, I'd like to say it's a life form. I don't know if I can quite say that yet because it doesn't have internal process. But it's a solid shape mathematically that can connect to other solid shapes of its own type, and it can generate random, potentially truly random numbers, which the majority of mathematics says is impossible and undefined. I'm arguing that we have truly random numbers currently being generated within this new token source code, that the math specifically supports those numbers as truly random. So that alone is potentially a huge value, because in computing we've never had that before. We've never had a truly random number generator. Nobody can even tell you what that is. So if suddenly there is one, then people are bound to care about it because they care if that exists or it doesn't. And so as it gets tested, we'll see either it's supported as yes it is, or it's discarded potentially. Yeah.
But isn't that the same as a CryptoKitty?
I don't know about CryptoKitties. So it's not an NFT. The concept on these is not an NFT, and the concept is not fully drawn out yet. There's a token called Affection, which is designed to sort of project within the community as it's already established whether and how to move forward. So I'm kind of reading on, it's neither ethics nor vulnerability at that point, but technology-wise, is each next step that I'm potentially about to provide an additional utility within the programming nature of blockchain itself. The new tokens that are being released, they're not having any LP put on them whatsoever. They're not having any value attached to them whatsoever initially. To create them, they're minted over time based on the use of the functions within the token. I think the Affection token, probably by today, we're almost close to 500,000. I really don't know, but I'm guessing on that number. Out of that 500,000 tokens, the only way to buy into the Affection token is to burn math tokens. And the math tokens, which is a library token, has a random number generator on it that all of the new tokens will have to call in order to set themselves up initially. Yeah, so the math token is only mintable to the end user as it accrues supply on the token from its functions being used. Those are otherwise burned tokens, but by burning p-stables, you can pull one of those out to yourself, yeah, or pull any number. It's not a one-to-one at this point on that.
Just calling out the numbers that are in the primary contract, so they can react on the same functionality that the contract has. The primary contract that you created, so it's act on by just calling out the numbers.
Yeah, so vocabulary-wise, using the word primary in relation to the new tokens, I would say the primary is actually the token source code itself before it's deployed. And the purpose of putting this token source into the blockchain is to define a primary independent reality from the Atropa ecosystem for this new mathematical, I hope it will develop into like a gaming system. But gaming's a lot farther than random numbers. In the front.
Yeah, I was going to ask you on your timeline on the game and how you plan on implementing the
Yeah, timeline on a playable game using this brand new source code that has, I think, 3 tokens so far. I don't entirely know. I've run into a stack size issue already once. I'm presuming that's going to end up being a pitfall. It may break the whole thing and there's no way to get it where I want it to go. If there's not a stack size problem, judging by my general development speed, I'm looking at like 2 years maximum. And so the gaming functionality that I hope to deliver within 2 years is going to be similar to any text-based MUD. With this layer 2 client that's going to operate off of emit messages from token contract function calls, anything could really happen. So there's a lot of pieces that are open to change. There's also the fact that a MUD text-based gaming system, while it can be built using the source code I have in mind, there might be something more intrinsic and organic that becomes more interesting, and the development will shift and not go into a game, but go into just straight up like a platforming, anybody can use this to do who knows what kind of thing. Yeah.
Please.
So my question is, do you think more pairs are better, or is it the arbitrage that's holding back the price action?
More pairs being better versus arbitrage in terms of what?
The hold back of the price action, being that there's a lot of pairs out there.
For a system or for one token?
For one token.
Okay, so for one token, I believe that the most positive price action that you can see in relation to one token placed on one exchange with only LP to regulate its price up, price down, is having a huge amount of LP with low supply in all of them. And the reason being because if you use the auto router, it's not that good yet. And so with the auto router especially not being amazing, it's going to end up causing individual tokens, if there's a huge number of LPs, individual tokens that are used during the buy-in. Say you're buying in only from Pulse. So the buy-in from Pulse to this token that has a huge number of LPs, it's going to go through a more or less statefully random selection of the LPs available when you're buying it. And so the individual stateful random selection, as you buy in, those numbers, because the LP is low on them, the number has to go up more. And so we'll see volatility in price, but without that volatility of price being beneficial only to one holder, which is what we see a lot in crypto. Yeah. Here in the front.
We're talking about a secondary ecosystem. What's the purpose of that one?
It's to explore development patterns. So I'm not intending for any huge profit potential out of it immediately. The benefit to the chain is that it will ultimately burn more P stables while they're at a low price, and so the benefit to the agencies that control the stable coins makes it more attractive for them to invest in PulseChain. So we have PDI already with 20% of the supply locked in Atropa forever. all of the stable coins, as far as I know, they're mintable by the entities that control them. And so that percentage of 20% of the Pulse DAI might not stay 20%, but it will stay FDV-wise a very large number. And that number will only go up as the price goes up. And so in the end, I think this throws kind of a monkey wrench at DAI, at any of them. If you're a stablecoin provider and on all your networks you're operating normal, but on this network you've got $5 billion that is different from money on all your other systems, but different in a positive way. There's decisions and dialogues and activities that have to occur from the stablecoin controlling entity that I believe will end up influencing positively with what we're developing.
Second question is choosing the PulseChain. Is that because of the ethics which are hard in combination with the low gas prices, or were there other reasons beyond why you choose to do this on PulseChain?
Ultimately, my choice in PulseChain was trust related to the fact that I had already profited so much from Hex. And so by committing this burning strategy and literally throwing away 2/3 of my bag for a longer term profit, having not participated in the sacrifice, I felt like it was my way of doing that my way, and I had like control over every aspect of it.
Can I tag on to the previous question?
Yeah.
So, is there then not any vulnerability from your perspective with these stable providers like Circle and?
I don't know. I think we've seen nothing but trustability from them, from my perspective. We've seen a couple of dips and whatnot. I think those are to be expected because we're nascent, clearly, within finance. The numbers aren't big enough within large financial institution reality to support keeping them pegged at $1. Like, that number is going to change. It's going to change by like 15 cents if there's a huge player. And so the trustability that we've seen from, I think, USDT and Circle have had the FUD the most. But the dips that we've seen and how quickly they restored it, the numbers that are released as far as the backing assets, I don't necessarily know if SEC involvement, how that tracks with the stablecoin operators, so that may be an issue. If there's legal crap going on with some of these providers that we aren't privy to, then that's kind of an issue. But evidence-wise, everything that I'm seeing is in support.
Please go ahead in the back. I didn't see it. Yes.
So recently we created the PulseChain token.
Or can you speak up?
Yeah, come closer, please.
So recently we created the PulseChain token.
Oh.
Just to create adoption for the Drop and PulseChain. You paired it with the Yaya token. What are your thoughts on it? Would you want to see more of these kind of initiatives?
I'm not sure. So my reason for bringing American Representative Sheila Jackson Lee into the discussion and ongoing dialogue that I have is mostly related to the fact that she's a threat to me. She's a threat to my entire race of people as far as us not being recognized as a race of people. The Mantissa token I would like to point out as what the fuck Sheila Jackson Lee, because that's her. The reason that can't be attached to me is her party that's driving a bus to run all wells down. So in terms of any natural involvement of that token, I'm not opposed to it. Anything's possible. Since I started complaining, I feel like there's been a lot of positive change from that part, but she's still a vilely angry woman. And I would like to see that change more than any involvement with any tokens that are related to cementing evidence related to her character. Yeah.
We also recently created the Ruffle token, which is paired with, or it's paying dividends in LOL token. Can you please share some thoughts on that, on the LOL token?
So the LOL token also uses the Devehi language of the Maldives. The shape is like that, and it represents like the now. So when I speak or when I motion in any way, there's a certain number of events that I'm either privy to of myself or I'm giving away to possession in terms of why Maldives writes that way. As far as another token offering it as rewards, if it improves the interest in what that concept is, I'm all for it. I could support it more if I see that.
All right. So basically, in a sense, you would really want to see more of this just to increase adoption.
Honestly, so I've said this a couple of times. The purpose of the Atropos ecosystem and of this new ecosystem are technology. So by the time the token's released, I'm more or less already planning-wise complete on it. Like I'm done. Any additional additions of functionality, if they make the circuit-like contractual nature of these connected contracts, if it makes it more real, then that's like a huge positive. And if it brings more people into feeling like, in terms of this Devehi character, that they can stay in proceedings with this forward momentum, what I would like to be community forward momentum, like that's pretty awesome. I don't know how we can get there. I'm very aware that a lot of people are citing it, and we're building that vision. And after we build the vision, we can move forward in it. But right now, I feel like for the most part, there's a lot of we don't know what this is as a together object. Maybe I know what some things are and you know what some things are, but overall, putting those together and moving them forward in blockchain technology, like it's not happened yet. And so any effort towards that is all positive. Good enough?
You have an answer question in the middle, please.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What are the biggest hazards or risks for the Atropa ecosystem to, if these things happen, the ecosystem cannot reach the targets you have?
Risks in relation to target?
Risks.
Okay. So the risks have all been covered within the IRC chat log. We did an audit going token by token straight down the list, and the risks for the most part that are identifiable are all intentional. There are portions of the ecosystem, especially for developers, that I intend for a brand new person to be able to come in and immediately be able to like pull some money out of the system with zero or very small outlay. The new economy tokens in the Dysnomia system, because you buy in ultimately with one P stable of any kind, and they're all at different rates right now, into one of the new token, and then it trades in LP for a higher price. The setup currently for anyone that wants to come in and develop bots, like you can easily make $40, $50 an hour just exploiting that pathway. Risk wise, those are the kind of risks that I'm looking at. I want those risks to be there. Yeah.
What kind of events, maybe, malicious events or technologies,
Right.
that would impede the ecosystem to reach that target?
So as far as I know, there are no risks that will have effect to the whole ecosystem, because of the way it's laid out, because of the burned LP strategies. Like, I can't take it out, and if I can't take it out, the exploitation vectors are really minimized already, because 99.9% of the exploitations we see are from the inside. The exploitations from the outside, if we can identify what all of them are and put them into place to maybe encourage the pen testing sort of stuff, I feel it's all a positive, but there's no way for that stuff to take out the ecosystem. The goals are fixed to the P stable price for the most part, and secondarily to the WBTC price. And beyond that, on tokens like Teddy Bear, it could succeed as a mem even if P stables fail and Atropa fails. But at that point, we're looking at a loss for PulseChain, I feel like.
One of the success metrics you spoke about for PulseChain is that basically the PRC20 should be valuable, because otherwise the narrative of the world's largest airdrop doesn't really fit. So would you then say that all PRC20s should reach parity with the ERC20s?
I would disagree that all PRC20s should reach parity with ERC20s, because there's a controller for each of these tokens. And so if the controller is a part of PulseChain, then they should at least consider having one-to-one. But if it's, I don't necessarily know one that's completely outside of PulseChain off the top of my head, but say token whatever is on Ethereum and they have profit going and they don't give a fuck about us, there's no reason for that to ever reach one-to-one. There's no reason for their token on PulseChain to ever have value at all.
Here in the back, please, again.
Commenting on what you just said, we have the crypto.com Pro ecosystem that just paired to on the Ethereum side. I think it was 2 weeks ago. So that I think that like you just said, right? That on one party, someone is have control on these tokens, right? So, but the community can still, be incentivized to make it grow, even though we know that they have a lot of supply on the other side, but they can just rub the chain if they want to come back to the other side.
So the main issue I see it as far as tokens on two systems that would have community support on PulseChain is that the token creator on whatever other chain, Ethereum side, they have control of that token. So if it has minting functions, they have control of that, etc. So by the time it becomes a PRC on PulseChain, if the community goes to support it and they decide they don't like PulseChain, that token creator, they could mint and just rug pull for the token on PulseChain. I don't think it's I don't know if we've seen that yet from anyone, but I would expect it if there was a community-only upward momentum on some price of some asset that otherwise is not in focus by the development team.
Is there then a way to renounce that contract
I don't think there's any ethical way to do it. You can't renounce someone else's contract, even if you own the network.
Please.
What if you and the team were to fall apart, or if something happens to one of you, or all of you, will it fail, or is this self-sustaining?
Like I said, this is self-sustaining.
Okay.
So if I fall off the map and there's no further activity from the source or treasury address, there's just no further activity from the source or treasury address. It'll go on and on.
Was there a bigger purpose why you set up this ecosystem?
So the original purpose, like I said, was necessity. Like I had this huge bag of an order that won't be filled. And so by burning it, it provided an incentive for those token owners to fill the order. Because if they're going to fill it anyway, if no one's exploiting it, and now I can take this exploit and make it secondary to where there's no rug pull on them, essentially. I didn't become like an owner of the token. I became a partner of the token that way.
So that was, let's say, saving your position.
Yeah.
Was the first reason.
Right.
But doing that, going into what you're doing now, did that create another purpose then? Is it you want to leave a legacy behind, or what's?
Well, so the new tokens with this new code base, that's just what I like to develop on. I've wanted to make some sort of application for, I don't know, I've been working on it literally since 2006, one way or another. Different network stacks, different math. The math at this point has been solid for about 8 years. And so I don't see that changing at this point because it hasn't changed in that time. But the structures around it, if the structures within the new token structure do end up supporting like a random number generator, in my opinion, on the blockchain, if it can be shown above security tolerance, it's literally a game changer. There's this whole class of things that traditional money operating systems use random numbers for, like gambling, but also any kind of security. If we can start to emulate some of these capacities, then we'll see additional development that will boost the entire ecosystem. And if there's no reason to buy the tokens that I'm creating now, and there's no necessarily like huge monetary value to them, but the functions are callable just for the price of gas, and that gas price stays very low, I feel that that's a and you can know them. Like you can, the source, the entire stateful nature of the random number generator is available. So there's an argument that bots or whatnot, having a known list of numbers, if you're doing like a gambling operation, that the bots are just able to attack it. Once you have a whole bunch of random number generators, and it's defeatable. You can make it more than secure enough for all gambling related stuff, I feel like. And in my opinion, if we get the user that wants to come in and just like hit buttons all day, like that's where the money's going to be, in my opinion, because you get the word of mouth advertising, you get the viral reality of this like traffic that's going on, and then you get the rewards that the player has as their.
In that case, would gambling be part of the gaming?
I don't intend to develop anything specifically like that, but especially if there's a player character oriented gaming nature that gets added into the blockchain, then somebody's going to develop that and it's going to be included. Yeah.
Okay, so we've seen increases in DEX transactions, so that looks good. We've seen also top 10 were in TVL, but we're not seeing price reflection. And so now we're like 2 years for Pulse and 1 year now plus for PulseX. We got a lot of people that are like holding back and like, okay, what your emotional side? I want your expert opinion. What encourages you on the expert side of you that says, okay, this is what's coming down the pipe and this is what I'm excited about, taking out your emotions?
I feel like in terms of what excites me as an expert in relation to like what's next, I've at this point positioned myself like way ahead of the field. And so it's mostly a matter of whether anything's catching up or not, and seeing community interest, seeing huge amount of traffic in the estimations I had, huge amount of traffic on the use of these new functions that are available. I'm just going to be watching that, and as any of that achieves a level of success, I'll have something to reflect against, and we'll build together.
Further questions? Right.
Yeah, one more. So, in terms of the stables, then, so I think most people can now see that how we can get them to peg eventually, right? But I think that some people still have the fear that we can't keep to peg because there might be a sell-off because people will take profit, let's say. So how do you envision that? Is it like a bit like what you have with your BFF tokens?
Exactly. I entirely view the Pulse stable coins exactly like the BFF token. On one hand, say we had say the foundation behind DAI just wanted to give money away. They would be waiting for a certain number of certain level holdings and then would just pump the value. And we would see it tank, and we would see them pump, and et cetera, and it would eventually stable out at whatever number they wanted to pump it to, assuming they had unlimited capital. So the expectation that the P-stables will reach $1, if we look at the top holders on any of the P-stables, nobody has that large of a bag like above me. And so if I'm maintaining the top holding position and I can be a reference point, like I can have a perspective on whether I still think it's going to get there or not. And from my holdings, I feel like it should still get there. That I've made a value case by all the burning for the holdings that I maintain. I think I still have 100 million USDT, for example. I think that's currently like 250K. I don't know the number. So 250K to 100 million, that's a big jump. But we've already seen with Hex that happened. And we've already seen with Bitcoin that happened. We've already seen with Ethereum that happened. So with Pulse, having a goal of not having exorbitant gas prices, my view is that the slow bringing up of the P-stables and the slow bringing up of the local BTC and potentially the WETH being either tied directly to the Pulse price, which means ETH falls to the pulse price, or ETH, it's like that's sort of a contingency unrelated to the P stables, but that's the only outlier that I know of in that group.
Final question? Anyone?
Have you ever talked to Richard Hart in person, in writing, on the phone?
Gotcha.
When, if yes, about what?
So I have not talked to Richard Hart. I have expressed recently on IRC that I think he might be an AI. With all this chat GPT stuff and whatnot going on. I have also talked to a number of people that say they have met him. But with AI the way it is very recently, it makes sense to me with the early failures and the early difficulties that we saw in crypto adoption, as far as having any individual out front that's going to say, invest in this, it might have been too difficult to get a human to take that position, and so an AI was created. If Richard Hart is AI, I'm also certain Vitalik Buterin is AI. If anybody has truly met them in person, then they know that's not true. So if we weigh might or might not have a truly random number generator against might or might not Vitalik Buterin and Richard Hart are AI, then you get a perspective of like where I really am as a developer. Yeah.
Assuming he's not AI, would you consider meeting him and talking?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think he's great, either way. So yeah, that's another thing. So I've followed very closely. I've participated as an auditor in a Scientology context for the Richard Hart. And he's met my marks. Like when I say like ethically and trust-wise, like I'm on board and it's good. It's even if it is AI. And so from my perspective, the vulnerability of Vitalik Buterin and Richard Hart actually being AI, it's been more than covered that it's fine if they are. Yeah. In the back.
Can you speak without prejudice to the communities? Where do we stand as a community compared to the others?
I don't know that much about other crypto communities. If I am to speak in relation to the attendance to the party last night, they can't. We're better.
Thank you. Get those raffle tickets out. We're going to do about 4 giveaways before we release for lunch. Woo! I want to acknowledge some of the people that have contributed to these giveaways. Some of you may have heard of Aussie's Greatest.
I always do this.
They make these really, really handmade, nice chains. They're like bedazzled. On one side it has PulseChain, the other side the second crypto revolution. It covers the entire RH ecosystem. And then our second book is actually written by some of our guests here in the room.
Hey.
Where are you guys at, Johanna?
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We're going to take a lunch break.
The Power of Hex. It's a great read.